Hello and welcome to my channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Millie and I love makeup, especially eyeshadows, and I do love to test out different eye brushes because I do have hooded eyes and I have a very particular preference on the kinds of eye brushes I like to use. I do have some previous brush reviews on my channel that I will link down in the description box in case you're interested, if there's any specific brands that you're curious if I've tried them out, if you also have hooded eyes or if you have smaller lids or if you're just really particular in brush shapes as well. So today I'm going to be finally talking about the Blend Bunny Cosmetics brushes. There's 5 eye brushes. They come in a set and they're super affordable. They are synthetic and they feel really nice quality. I did get these sent in PR when they first came out, so I've been trying them out for couple of months now, and I really just wanted to get a handle on just using them all different kinds of ways with different eyeshadow primers and different matte eyeshadows. I did buy 2 or 3 other sets of these brushes, so if that tells you anything going into this video, what I like to do in my brush reviews is show you each of the brushes against my lid so you can see the size in comparison to an eye. And I'm going to show you some comparisons among my other brushes, but I have so many eyeshadow brushes, especially blending brushes, so we're going to just kind of cover the ones that are like most similar shape to this. I'm also going to be showing you 2 demos. In the first demo, I'm going to be using them the way that Maggie, aka Blend Bunny, who is the owner of Blend Bunny Cosmetics, likes to use the brushes because it is the way that she applies eyeshadow, and that is going from dark to light. And then in the second demo, I'm just going to use the brushes as I would usually the way that I like to do makeup. And if you decide that you would like to try these brushes, I do have an affiliate code with Blend Bunny, and that is Millie, and it will save you 10%. So let's get right into it. Alright, here we have some size comparisons. These are on tape so that they don't move because otherwise this would be such a pain. So I kind of did try to order these from smallest to largest and really only compare somewhat similar sizes, nothing just way too different. So starting from the smallest, we have the Refer 23 and 03 brushes. These are such tiny little pencil brushes. In comparison to B2 and B3, you can see the shapes are quite different. These are very pointed. Same with the Sigma Pencil E30. This one used to be my absolute favorite lower line and eyeshadow wing brush, but it is much larger than the 03 and 23, which I now prefer to use to create eyeshadow wings with. Then we have the Kaleidos S5 brush. I'm not sure if they even have these brushes anymore, but this one is very similar to the Give Me Glow G1012 brush and pretty different. Definitely even smaller than B2 and B3. Mainly the bristles are much shorter. And then the Give Me Glow G327 brush is relatively new to my collection. I actually think this one is more similar to B4. However, it is much less dense than the B4 brush, as you can see. And also you'll be able to see that the top here is a bit flared out and looser compared to the B4, which is more tapered in, so they are quite a bit different. And next to that is the Spectrum A12 brush, just in comparison to some of these other more pencil type of brushes. So I think this one's actually more similar to the B3 brush from Blend Bunny, but it is a bit larger. Not only is it thicker, it does look a little bit longer. Next, on to one of my favorite brushes of all time is the Refer 13 brush and the Hakuhodo J5529. I also really love the wing gloss. I think it's 18 and 19 or 19 and 20 brushes, and they're not on Beautylish anymore, so I didn't include them as comparison. They're pretty much identical to the 13 and 14 brushes from Refer, so I'm not really sure if they're carrying those or not anymore, but I wanted to mention that just in case you were wondering about the wing gloss brushes. And these two are just such great little blending brushes, and you can see in comparison to the B4 brush and even the B1 brush, they're somewhat similar, but again, while the Hakuhodo does have a little bit more of a dome tip to it, they're just a little bit flared out at the end. And they're also a lot less stiff than the B4 and the B1 brush from Blend Bunny. Onto the Makeup Shack brush T63. Honestly, this is such an amazing, tiny little blending brush. And while it does seem like it's very similar to the B4, again, it's not as stiff and it is just a little bit thinner, and it does just flare out. I feel like when I blend with either of these, they're just not equal, because this one I can just feel the density and this one just has more give to it. Then we have the Sigma E42 brush. This is from their like small eye blending brush set. I really wish Sigma would come out with way more smaller blending brushes. I really feel like for the most part they have some pretty large blending brushes, but this is one of the ones that is good. This is the Precision Firm Blender, and it is very similar to the B4. I actually think it might be a little bit more similar to B1, but I think the bristles will seem like they're a little bit just longer, but this is a really nice brush. It is just not as dense as the B4 and the B1 brush. It does have a bit more give to it. And then we have the What's Up Beauty R102 brush. This is such a great little blending brush, very similar to the Rephr 14 and the Hakuhodo J146 brushes, but it does have a smaller base and it flares out a bit more, and I think the top is just a little bit different from these other brushes. But this one I have kind of near B4 and B5 and B4 and B1 because you can see that they're pretty different. You can see this one has just a lot of give to it. The bristles are super light. They're not very, and they're a bit flared out. Same with the 14 and J146, just here for reference. Again, these are dense, but they're not so dense. Then like for this, do you see the difference when I'm touching them? It's pretty different. If anything, these might be more similar to the B5. Though still pretty different though in terms of just like how they feel when you're applying eyeshadow. And then we have the Spectrum B10 and B11. These are amazing blending brushes. These I have a dedicated video on all the Spectrum eye brushes, and I love these because these are the smaller versions. They do have a larger counterpart. And again, here you can see that they do taper in quite a bit and they flare out. So this one has a flat top, and then this one is more domed. So this one is quite similar to the B5 brush from Blend Bunny. And then we have another Sigma brush. This is the E33. This one's there really just for comparison. It is actually slightly more similar to B1 and B4. However, the bristles are much longer. And also, again, they're just not as dense and they fan out a bit. Then we have another Gimme Glow brush. This is the G630. This one I thought would be just a bit larger than the B4, but somewhat similar. And again, you can see that it is domed, but you can see that the bristles really just go from short to longer a bit more. It's like a little bit harsher than on the B5. And when I mean harsher, I don't mean that in like a negative way. I just mean that in like it's more obvious kind of way. And then we have the Mini Booster brush from Sonia G. This one is very similar to B5, and it is pretty dense if you see when I'm moving the bristles here and moving them here, but it does have a little bit more give to it. And then lastly, we have the Zoeva 221 Luxe Soft Crease brush, and this one is also pretty similar to B5. I'm not sure if it's really smaller or larger. It's very close. I prime with the P. Louise eyeshadow primer, and to clean off my brushes just in between using them, I do like to use a microfiber rag because it is just super soft and gentle on the bristles versus like a color switch. And I do use natural hair brushes, and those definitely should not be used with the color switch. It's just way too harsh for those. So let's jump right into it. I'm going to be using the Surge palette from Blend Bunny, and I'm first going in with brush 5. And I picked up Linger, and I'm going to be stamping it right into the crease. So the way that these color handles are color coded is that you start with the darkest shade and then you go to the lightest shade. Now, I don't usually work like that, but I thought we would use the brushes this way for this look, and then on the other eye, I'll do it the way I apply eyeshadow. And I'm also going to be putting this onto the outer corner. So you know I like to deepen out my outer corners. So obviously looking a little rough right now. Next, taking the B2 brush, and this is what you're going to be putting right above that, just blending it into it. But you want to make sure you're leaving space to add another lighter shade above that. So just taking a little bit, and I'm really just trying to stay on the very edge of that. Next, I'm taking the B3 brush. This is when I would usually actually take a fluffier brush to blend this in. So I'm just going in with Chills, and I'm blending that above. You can see we're getting a really beautiful gradient. I do think that this way does take me just a little bit longer because it is just not something I do all the time. So it does tend to just take a little bit more work from me. So now we have the B4 and B5 brushes left, and I don't have another lighter shade to go in. That's kind of the lightest teal in this palette. So I'm actually gonna go in with White Hot, which is the white shade, and I'm gonna blend that above. So that means I'm not going to be using the B5 brush. on this eye. This will also very much depend on your eye shape and the size of your lid. I'm gonna go back in with Rush just a little bit on the B2 brush. I feel like I wanted to just create a little better transition into the lighter shades. And I mean, this blend, you can't argue with this blend. So on this eye, I'm gonna do the same look, but I'm gonna be using the brushes the way I would use them based on just the way I put on eyeshadows, if that makes sense. And I actually like to build from light to dark. So I'm gonna go in with Chills and the B5 brush, which is the largest brush. And I'm gonna kind of put that above my crease. And I'm just gonna take it all the way around, picking up a little bit more. And then I usually do like to go in with like a even lighter, more like my skin tone shade or a lighter shade all the way at the end. So just putting in a little bit more. Then going in with B1, I'm gonna go in with Rush, which is like the second deeper, darkest shade in this whole blend. And I'm just blending that. This is much more precise type of brush. And then taking Linger with the same brush and popping it right into the crease. And just slowly going and building it up. And I'm gonna take Linger on the B4 brush. I feel like this is a perfect outer corner brush. And I'm just gonna tap it on to my outer corner, kind of in a triangular shape. And going back to the B1 brush. And I'm just blending that out in circular motions. And then taking the B2 brush and White Hot. And I'm blending that right against my brow, basically. I'm gonna go in with B1 again and just a little bit of Rush. And just blend that kind of right against that. This is obviously a very glam kind of look. To finish off the lower lash line, I'm going in with the B3 brush and Linger. And I'm just blending these together. And I'm gonna do that on both sides. So here's the finished look. If you want to see me applying this beautiful sparkly eyeshadow, check out my TikTok. So let's talk about the blends. You can definitely see a bit of a difference in between all the shades I used on this eye. And this eye, it just feels like it's a little bit more just all blended together. You don't see that mid-tone bright teal as much on this eye as this eye, but this will really depend on how you prefer to apply eyeshadow and what kind of look you're going for. So here's the finished right eye. And here's the finished left eye. So like I said in the beginning, I've already bought 2 or 3 other sets. I honestly don't even remember because I just was like, I need more of these. I really have been loving these brushes, but let's go into much more detail than that. So I'm gonna go through each of the brushes separately and just talk about them and what I like to use them for. So starting off with the B1 brush, this really you can use for so many different things. You can use this right in the crease to pack down eyeshadow on the outer corner and as well as blend it out. This brush does have longer bristles than the B2 and B3, which basically means that while it is still a denser brush, it is a little bit fluffier, so there's just a little bit more bend to it, which means that you'll just be really able to kind of move the eyeshadow around versus the other brushes. Let's just start talking about the B2 and B3. They're very similar, but B2 is just a little bit shorter and it has a little bit more of a flat top versus the B3 brush is just a little bit longer and it is more domed. So I would probably not necessarily blend with this brush because it is so pointed that you just kind of move the eyeshadow around but not necessarily be blending it. You could use either of these brushes under your lower lash line as well. They're really nice and small for that. I do prefer shape-wise one of my refer brushes that's like a true pencil brush where it's like really pointy. I just really feel like I can get in there, but I do like to use those for that as well. Onto the B4 and B5 S5 brushes. B4 is slightly shorter and it is less fanned out and it is pretty dense and it has a rounded top. So this one could also work under your lower lash line depending on just how much you want to blow it out down there. And then B5 is the largest brush of them all. It is a fluffier brush. It does fan out just a little bit, but it does again have a dome top. But because the bristles are longer, it has quite a bit of bend to it. So this is a great just overall blending brush. I like to use this one if I want to do a really blown out look and just really put in like a crease shade, just blow it out all in the corner, or also like at the end after I finish blending and I just want to really make sure everything is smoothed out together. I do like to just use this to go over that. Right now these brushes are only available in a set. I'm not sure if they plan on ever selling them separately, but if they did, that would be really great because I realize everyone likes to do their eyeshadows differently, and because of that you might not feel like you need all of these brushes. Also, just because they're color coded doesn't mean you have to use them this way. You can definitely try it out and see how you like it, but there's no right or wrong in applying. And if you want to go from dark to light, as you can see though, I was able to get just a bit more of a gradient on this eye, so that is something to keep in mind. Definitely worth just experimenting, but I do know that not everybody is going to be doing looks like this for every day, so you might just want some really great small blending workhorse brushes. Now, while I do absolutely love these brushes and I bought backups because I know I'm going to be getting great use out of them, that being said, these do not replace my rougher Hakuhodo Wayne Goss brushes. I really still love those brushes. I mean, I'm used to using those for years now at this point, and there are a couple of reasons why that is. Number one being that these are synthetic, and I find in general with any synthetic brush, especially with a more tacky primer like the P. Louise, ABH, etc., anything kind of that you don't set that still stays just a little bit tacky to really help grip the eyeshadow, I can feel synthetic brushes dragging just a little bit. There's just a little bit of like a feel of tugging, while I never feel that with my natural hair brushes. And then also the shapes are not same. I think that these in general are just a little bit more dense and just a little bit less like flared out, like the rougher 13 to 14 brushes as well as the Hakuhodo brushes that I have. And then the third thing is really just such a personal preference. Maggie did talk about why these bristles are black or really darker gray to black, and it is because when you're using these in tutorials, etc., you don't want people to see if you're using dirty brushes. Personally, that's really not something I look for. I don't even think I've ever noticed that. Like when I watched a tutorial, I never think about, wow, that person needs to wash their brushes. So that is really just a personal preference because I actually prefer lighter brushes, even if just the top is white and the base is black or dark brown or something, because I do like to see which brushes I've already used, and it is really hard to see with these brushes, so I have to make sure I wipe them off, and I'm just really bad at remembering to do that. So it's really just, again, like such a personal tiny little preference, and it might not matter to you at all whatsoever. So I did just want to mention those because I do want my brush reviews to be very thorough and just really put it all out there. If you have hooded eyes or small lids, or you just really prefer to use smaller brushes to be really precise with your eyeshadow application, then I definitely recommend checking them out. They do serve an important purpose in my eyeshadow brush collection. And that's everything for this video. Let me know in the comments below if you've tried these brushes out. And if you're new to my channel, I would love it if you subscribe. There's so much makeup content, lots and lots of tutorials, some brush reviews here and there, and much more to come. You don't want to miss out. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.